Imagine for a second that the world right outside your window right now, the mountains, the rivers, the layout of the streets you drive every
It's
day.
the geography we just take for granted.
Exactly. Imagine if it wasn't just random geography. Like, what if all of it was a literal physical language? Just this massive ancient text encoded right into the dirt and rock, waiting to be read.
I mean, it completely flips how we usually think about our environment. We're so conditioned to view geography as just the stage where human history happens.
Yeah, just the backdrop.
Right. But this concept suggests that the landscape is actually the script itself.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome to the deep dive. We have an incredibly dense, fascinating stack of sources on the desk today, and it's all anchored by this multidisciplinary text called Aragatsoy in the Resonance of the Highlands.
It is a wild read.
It really is. The core mission of our deep dive today is to explore this massive hypothesis. The authors argue that if we want to uncover the absolute fundamental source of human language and consciousness, we have to look at the Armenian Highlands.
Yeah, they propose that this specific region functions as a resonance codex, basically an Axis Mundi or the literal tuning fork of humanity.
Which is, that's an audacious claim to make.
Oh, it's huge. But to even begin to entertain it, the source asks us to completely throw out the idea that ancient people were just randomly naming things on a map.
Right. No random labels around a campfire.
Exactly. We have to step into the realm of what they call geo-linguistics. It's this idea that the geography physically taught early humans how to speak. Like the actual shapes of the land dictated the shapes made by human vocal cords.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to understand the mechanics of how this supposedly works. The text starts us right in the center, at the capital city of Armenia, Yerevan, or Erebuni in antiquity. Right. Now, according to the archaeological records, this fortress was built in 782 BCE. But the text claims it wasn't just laid out for, standard military defense. It was built in the shape of a downward-pointing triangle.
And that is the architectural foundation of their whole argument. In universal symbolic language, across a ton of ancient cultures, a downward-pointing triangle signifies the feminine principle.
Like a chalice or a womb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And specifically in this geographic context, it's the form of a hearth. The hypothesis is that the ancient builders constructed this citadel as a macro hearth.
A giant fire pit.
Yeah. They basically took the shape of a traditional domestic sunken fire pit, which is called a tonir in Armenia, and they just mapped it directly onto the grand scale of the landscape.
Okay, so the city itself is designed to mirror a hearth. But how does that connect to the language?
Yeah.
Because, we're generally taught that the name Yerevan derives from Erebuni, meaning victory or capture.
Right, the standard historical translation.
Yeah. But the codex breaks down the phonetics of Yerevan in a completely different way, tying the syllables directly to the physical action of a fire.
And the linguistic breakdown they provide is so specific, they argue that when you look at ancient Armenian root syllables, yer is connected to extension, yearning, or a horizontal breath.
So if you're sitting by a fire, it's like the way smoke initially spreads horizontally across the coals.
Exactly, that horizontal movement. Then you have the syllable EV, which links to the roots ver or var. That signifies vertical ascension, the act of burning upward.
Okay, and then
An is an ancient root for heaven or the sky.
Oh, wow. So according to this geo-linguistic theory, Yerevan isn't just a noun. It translates to an active process, the place where the yearning flame ascends to heaven.
It's a literal phonetic description of a hearth functioning.
That is wild. But okay, here's where I get a little stuck on the logic. If the city is a macro hearth, how does it function without fuel? A fire needs constant nourishment or it dies out. What is feeding this giant geographic fire pit?
Well, the authors anticipate that exact question, and they argue the landscape itself gives us the answer. If you stand in the center of Yerevan, your view to the west is just completely dominated by this massive geographic feature.
The Twin Peaks of Masis.
Right, which most people listening would know as the biblical Mount Ararat.
Greater Masis and Lesser Masis. And I noticed the Codex doesn't translate these simply as mountain peaks. They argue these are the literal breasts of this macro-feminine landscape. Like they break the name down into MA and SIS.
Yeah, let's look at why they make that leap. MA is one of the oldest human phones for primordial matter, or the mother.
Right, like the Latin mater.
Or the Sumerian AMA, exactly. In this topographic translation, Greater Masis is the full breast, the primary source of nourishment. And SIS in ancient dialects means sister or seed, so it represents the budding breast.
So together, MA, SIS is the mother and the sister. The eternal promise that the nourishment for the land will never run dry.
Exactly. It's a closed-circuit system.
So it's like an ancient geographic closed-circuit system. Because if you look at the topographical maps from the sources, on a clear morning, the snow melt from those twin peaks flows down the river systems right through the heart or the hearth of Yerevan.
Yes. The conceptual heat of the city warms that water to nourish the Ararat plain below.
It's amazing. The physical geography perfectly mirrors the domestic Armenian hearth. The sources talk about how a traditional tonier inside a home is usually flanked by two clay pillars built into the wall.
And those pillars represent Masis, the MA, and the SIS. The text draws a direct line here. When a baker takes flour and water, the raw matter, the MA, and puts it in the fire, the resulting bread is the SIS.
The nourishment realized.
Right. The domestic hearth cannot function without those twin pillars, just like the city of Yerevan conceptually can't exist without the twin peaks.
Okay, so the hearth burns, the breast feeds. It's a complete circuit. But a domestic fire is just a controlled copy of a wildfire. So if Yerevan is the domestic hearth, where did the original primordial fire come from?
You have to look for the source.
Right. Where did these early humans witness a fire massive enough to teach them these phonetic roots for burning in heaven? And the landscape points us upward to Mount Aragats.
Yeah, Aragats is the geographic heavyweight here. Geologically, it's a quaternary stratovolcano, which basically means it's an ancient, massive volcano built up over hundreds of thousands of years.
And it has this massive 13-kilometer caldera.
Yes, a huge crater rimmed by 4 distinct peaks that align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west.
And the geological history says this thing used to produce catastrophic Plinian eruptions. We are talking about magma and ash columns shooting 25 kilometers straight up into the sky.
A literal cauldron of fire holding up the sky.
Exactly. So how does the text translate the name Aragats? Because traditionally, the area Aten Aragatsoy was just translated as the foot of Aragats.
Right, but the Resonance Codex breaks it down geo-linguistically as Aragatsoy. Ara is an ancient root for divine fire, or radiant flowing energy. Gats translates to a stone vessel, or cauldron. And Oy signifies the breath, or the aura.
So Aragatsoy means the place where the breath of heaven mingles with the divine fire in the stone cauldron. It's the womb of the cosmos. And wait, I have to bring up this historical twist from the sources. The Egyptian connection.
Oh, the Karnak annals. Yeah.
So around 1446 BC, Pharaoh Thutmose III has his scribes writing about encountering the Erminon. And they specifically wrote that in the land of the Erminon, heaven rested upon its 4 pillars.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Egyptologists have dismissed that line for centuries as just poetic metaphor, just flattering the king.
Right, flowery language.
But the hypothesis argues it is absolutely literal. If you stand on the Ararat plain and look at the Aragats volcano, you see a massive caldera with 4 equidistant peaks.
Holding up the sky.
It looks exactly like a celestial vault supported by 4 stone pillars. It's a perfect geomantic accuracy.
Okay, but I have to play the skeptic here for a second. If Aragats is shooting ash 25 kilometers up, that leaves an apocalyptic mark. And the source talks about the Vishapakar, the dragon stones found on the slopes of the volcano.
Right, the monoliths.
Yeah. But wait, if this is all supposed to be a literal geographical record, why are they talking about slaying mythical dragons? Doesn't that just turn this whole geolinguistic theory into a fairy tale?
It sounds like one until you decode the word. They argue we are mistranslating it. It's a compound word, Vishapakar.
Okay, break that down.
V means an abyss or a vent. Shap refers to a mineral precipitate, so in this case, volcanic ash. And kar just means stone.
Wait, so Vishapakar literally translates to the stone of the abyssal precipitate.
Yes. They aren't mythical monsters. They're geomythic markers. They're ancient hazard signs placed exactly at the boundaries of historical volcanic fallout zones.
Like saying, hey, the ash fell exactly to this point last time. Don't build your house past here.
Exactly. It's prehistoric emergency management. And this connects directly to Vahan, the ancient Armenian fire god who is known as the Dragon Reaper.
Ah, right. And the text compares him to the Vedic god Agni.
Yes. Linguistically, Vahan is Varagni, the burning Agni. But the Vedic Aryans migrated away from active volcanoes, so their fire god became an abstraction, just the fire on an altar.
But the Armenians stayed in the shadow of Aragats.
Right, so Vahan reaping the dragon isn't just a myth, it is the literal cultural memory of taming the volcano's vent, the V.
And the stones themselves show this. The sources point out the iconography on the stones often shows a ram, which is fire, draped over a fish, which is water.
the alchemical marriage of fire and water.
Yeah, the literal visual record of a Circean eruption when magma violently hits groundwater. It's incredible. But, okay, eventually that violent marriage settles, the ash clears, what is left?
You need a place for that fire to cool.
Right. Which brings us to the waters, specifically Lake Sevan. This is a massive lake, 1,900 meters up in the mountains. The Codex calls it the Mirror of Anahit.
Anahit being the goddess whose name means the breath of heaven made feminine.
And the phonetics of the lake's name mirror this perfectly. The text breaks down S-Evian. S is stillness. Like physically making the S sound forces your teeth closed. It's a quieting hiss.
Then EV is that vertical ascension, and An is heaven. So S-Evian is the stillness through which the vertical reflects heaven.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The text introduces the endemic Ishkan trout that only lives in this lake.
Ishkan meaning prince, yeah.
And it connects this to esoteric anatomy, where the third eye is symbolized by a fish swimming in cerebrospinal fluid. So Sevan is the geographic third eye of the Highlands.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text calls Sevan a BHH, a black hole heart.
Yeah, that sounded like sci-fi to me at first.
It does, but think about a black hole. It absorbs light and information, but its event horizon is a perfect silent mirror. Sevan sits at the top of the Highlands. It absorbs the violent fire of Aragats, and it returns only perfect silence and reflection. It's the womb of wisdom.
Wow. Okay, so we have the body of the goddess, the hearth in Yerevan, the breast in Masis, the cauldron in Aragats, and the third eye in Sevan. But a body needs a voice.
Exactly. How does this landscape actually speak?
How does it generate language? The Codex argues the core seed of all Indo-European consciousness is the triliteral root RMN.
Right. And it's all about the physical shapes the environment forces your mouth to make. The R is erotic vibration. It represents the radiant flow, the fire. The M is a labial sound, closing your lips. That's containment, the waters, the form.
In the N.
N is a nasal continuant. It flows up into the nasal cavity, representing the opening into heaven, into eternity.
So RMN is radiant flow taking form and continuing into eternity. Fire, water, sky. And to make it speak, they attach the 7 cardinal vowels to it, creating nodes like ARMN, ERMN.
And those vowels are the emotional reactions to the landscape.
Right, the antonymic resonance, the idea that these sounds hold both the sour and the sweet, like the traditional Armenian duduk instrument. It sounds like weeping and celebrating in the exact same breath.
That is the perfect analogy. The geography demands terror and awe at the same time. The awe of a scream looking into the abyss and the awe of relief sitting by the hearth. The vocal cords learn to hold both extremes.
And what's fascinating here is how the Codex synthesizes this into the quantum N.
Yes. Quantum meaning light and MNN, the soul.
It sounds like autumn, the harvest season, where the vertical fire of Aragats meets the horizontal stillness of Sevan, producing pure vision.
It's the moment the light marries the soul.
So looking at this whole journey, this isn't just a map, it's a geo-linguistic ziggurat. To walk from the dragon stones to the hearth, up the volcano and to the lake, you're physically climbing the Tower of Babel.
But not as a curse of confusion, as a blessing of remembrance. We think language is just abstract noise we invented. But this hypothesis argues the landscape taught us how to speak. It's a text written in stone and vowel.
The landscape hummed, and we mimicked the tune, which is just profound. And that brings us to the takeaway for you, listening right now.
It really changes how you look at the natural world.
Absolutely. If the Armenian Highlands serve as the tuning fork of humanity, perfectly encoding the sounds of creation, what forgotten linguistic codex is hidden in the geography of your own backyard? If your local landscape could speak, what ancient story is it secretly humming under your feet?